Like the video, subscribe, but who cares? This is one of the worst rated Dynamites ever. And it's unfortunate because this is really one of the better shows that they've had for the year. Like, they did everything. The Jericho segment was minimized. There's honestly much better storytelling. The matches stay the same quality as well. The storylines we have going on aren't that, how do you say the word? Aren't that, fantastical or anything. Aren't over the top. They stay grounded, but they get real serious, especially for the world title. So yeah, it really sucks seeing the ratings so low like this. This is the episode where, most of the concerns were addressed. Most of the reasonable ones were addressed. But yeah, this is the review anyway. I'm still a fan. Apparently it's a holiday in America. I don't know. But yeah, if AEW shuts down, I'm going to stop watching wrestling and I'm going to focus on other things that I like. So now for the review of the show. Let's go. Which I think it's odd that we have it in a Dynamite. And I think the 2-week build kind of sucks. This deserved to be in Forbidden Door and deserved to be built the complete 4 weeks. And I'm talking about MJF versus Roosh. I don't know if this is how you build Roosh, having him lose on a Dynamite. But I think he got enough control to, not win, because of course, who the hell can beat MJF? I think he got enough offense on MJF that it'll carry him as an upper mid-carder. He's not been buried, but he's definitely in a better position than he was before, especially with what happens here, but I'm kind of unsure with that thing that happens. So yeah, this match made Roosh look like a beast, just beating the shit out of the former world champion. Plus points, by the way, because I love Roosh. Roosh dominated 75% of the match, but I interpreted it as MJF having ring rust. He hasn't had a match in a long time, while Roosh had some squashes. So I guess he's a lot more back in the grind, back in the motions of things. This match was pretty much like an underdog MJF match. He's the underdog while Roosh just beat the shit out of him, and then MJF finds a way to win in the end. I like that their wrestling styles are very prominent. MJF has a very Ric Flair sort of reactive style of wrestling. He counters, he sets people up, while Roosh is mostly a brawler. There's some grappling there, but mostly a brawler, which I'm a bit against. I like his look. I like the whole attitude. The striking looks awesome, but the dude needs more grapples. And I also like that he doesn't use his dominating phase by just doing rest holds. That's a plus. Just do a couple of more grapple moves that I like. But the strikes that he does look so awesome. And MJF equally sells them well. So yeah, Roosh dominates 75% of the match. MJF makes a comeback, hits the big grapple moves, and then wins at the end. But it does come out of nowhere because MJF does not have this delineated sort of knockout finishing move. His finisher is the Salt of the Earth, a submission that targets an arm. I don't think we've established the Brain Buster as finishing anyone. Back when he was a heel, he punched people with his ring. He would win by a roll-up or something. I think it's a long time coming that he get his own knockout finisher, but I don't know if the Brain Buster is it. Too many people use the Brain Buster that don't finish off other people. But I guess I can excuse it this time because he does do his Heat Seeker followed by the Brain Buster. MJF teases selling his left leg, which he's been doing for the past few years. I think is the right word. But they don't play with it much. He fakes it being injured. And why wouldn't something like this heal up after you've been out for so long? I know there could be lingering injuries that you would have, but I think it would make sense if the injury that took you out for a year or almost a year would be the one to affect you in your future matches. I think it's the shoulder that he should sell. He should forget about that knee for a while. It should be the shoulder that fails him. So yeah, For the top three spots of the match, number 3 is the Roosh headbutt that gets MJF to bleed. Number 2 is the turnbuckle spot where MJF slips and then Roosh forearms him to hell. And the number 1 spot is the belly to belly on the apron going to the floor, Roosh to MJF. This is a good match, but I think it happens 2 weeks too early. I think this should have happened on a pay-per-view. It would have meant more. They would have been motivated to do a lot more than this. But as it is, it's a TV main event, pay-per-view undercard. It's pretty good. But it's missing something and it could have had a better finish. So for the post-match, we have the repercussions of what MJF said in his return promo. He insulted a lot of people, specifically ones on top, the EVPs, and now he's going to feel the direct effects of this. They've sent out one of their hit groups, the other being the Patriarchy, now the Cage of Agony. Brian Cage cuts his usual big guy sort of almost like fitness YouTuber sort of voice. He's one of the more cartoony speakers that we have in AEW, but it's enough to hype up Hechicero and set up his match with MJF at Forbidden Door. And as for having Hechicero be MJF's opponent, yeah, it feels like this should have been here and Roosh should have been the opponent at Forbidden Door. Because I know Hechicero looked really good in that Battle Royal. He had a really good match against Dalton Castle. But for a pay-per-view, man, I don't think he's a big enough name to be on a pay-per-view. He can be in a TV main event, but for a pay-per-view against MJF, this needs to be someone like a Shingo, someone like a ZSJ, or I don't know, we've already done Tanahashi last year. So maybe a Sanada would have been nice, or a Shota Umino, or you know what? An Evil would have been nice as well. Since MJF knows the back of his hand how to cheat, he would know how to shut down Evil. But yeah, politics get in the way of nice things. Some stupid shit with CMLL and Roosh. Let's just hope the match is good. But I don't know about this. They have to do something really big next week, which I doubt will be sufficiently big enough to get Hechicero on a pay-per-view level. But the match will probably outdo its expectations. So after this is the Mark Briscoe promo with his team of 4. So they are taking advantage of Mark Briscoe's newfound thing. And I think it's always been there. Mark Briscoe, I think I said before, the Briscoe brothers are two of the most well-realized characters in professional wrestling. They basically live the gimmick. They might talk like this in real life as well, but it's a bit animated here. But yeah, Mark Briscoe has this charisma and this unique way of talking that I don't think enough people do anymore. So first of all, it sets him apart from other people with the virtue of being different, but he can also adjust what he's saying, because that's Mark Briscoe right there. He doesn't come out as the most eloquent or the smartest character, more like a fun, lovable, maybe doofus who can kick your ass. And in wrestling, sometimes that's all it takes. So yeah, we have Mark Briscoe leading the charge. We have Kyle O'Reilly doing his faces. I think that's one of his best features. In promos, he's alright. He's a 7 or a 6.5 out of 10. But the facial expressions, the comedy, that's a 10 right there. And he has so much fun here with Mark. It's like when he was with the Undisputed Kingdom era, yeah, that's the faction. Dante is his usual vanilla self, but at least he doesn't sound terrible anymore, while Orange Cassidy does pretty much nothing. His story is on hold. Honestly, why do you have him against Zack Sabre Jr. when he has a blood feud against Trent? They could have picked another guy who Zack Sabre Jr. could beat the shit out of. But yeah, Orange is one of your biggest stars. He needs a match. Why not? It's a great segment to set things up for the 8-man tag match much later on. And then after this is the Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland face-to-face. This is one of the top 2 things that were here for this show. This segment here was amazing. This was perfect. This was Kenny Omega and Hangman Page all over again. Just minus the history. Because I don't know the history, like the friendship between Swerve and Will. In this segment, Will basically still proves that he's a child. He still has this youthful sense of invincibility. He's not willing to go all the way against someone. He relies mostly on his physical gifts compared to the strategy, which is Swerve's forte. Swerve got Will to snap. But this promo battle was them basically flexing on each other. They do this to start, but what actually makes this is when they bring up the history of last year. Will cites the persons that he's beaten. Swerve cites that Will needs help from Don Callis, which drives a wedge between Will and Callis, as we see in a backstage sort of shot of them, the family, all of them. A breakup is imminent. Will returns with some zingers that I don't think has a lot of substance that can actually affect Swerve. Like who cares if I was Swerve? If you make these kill shot sort of lines. It's just like to be cute and clever. We have hit a row, the kill shot missing by centimeters, but Swerve actually shows that he's secure in where he is. Will is worried about who he's beaten, while Swerve knows he's the best. He knows he's good. He will still be the rapper, actor, podcaster without the wrestling. But this kind of goes the anti-hero sort of route. Because in AEW, being a wrestler is everything. Swerve brings up Will's son, which I don't know why this will offend someone. Like, it's not like Swerve openly insults Will's son. I was pretty much annoyed with this in the movie Green Street Hooligans when we have our main character bringing up like this antagonist son who dies because of pretty much stupidity. Like, the antagonist of the movie brought his son to a football match where he dies because of a fight. And it's sort of his fault because who the fuck would bring their child to such a dangerous place as like a football firm fighting area? And at the end of the movie, like, he kills the main guy because of this. And that's kind of like how this felt. Like, simply bringing up the children isn't that offensive. I'm not a parent, I won't know, but as long as like it's addressed to me, like, it's fine. He was talking about Will as a parent, not that the children are shit or anything. But this sets Will off, and I love this ending right here. We have Will showing the final disrespect, proving that he's still a child, my house, and then Swerve just plays him like a fiddle. Anti-hero Swerve is here. Mentions both of the sons, he doubles down, and then we almost get a fight. Now this one at the end is more reminiscent of like the Swerve who invaded Hangman Page's house. This was it right here. If there was any way to turn Swerve heel, this would have been it, but he's still a babyface. He's still a good guy, an anti-hero. That feud with Christian, I think, like, changed him so much that he's not going to be like a nice guy anymore. And here we are. We have a face Swerve Strickland threatening Will's children. I love this feud so much. This is going to be fire, but I think Swerve's going to win. This is going to be a series. He has to win. Tony Khan, if you're watching this, Swerve Strickland has to win this. Will Ospreay needs character development before he can win that heavyweight title. Segment of the night. I think this is the segment of the pay-per-view cycle so much. This was so good. Bravo AEW for this storytelling. So after this is the Callis family's reaction to all of this. And as you can imagine, they're not happy. Don, Konosuke, Trent. Like, Don still looks like he trusts Will. Trent doesn't. Konosuke isn't having this shit. A breakup is imminent, but Kyle is in the middle. Who knows? We might get like a United Empire sort of faction again. Mark Davis could be back. But I do feel like this faction right now is kind of like a Hontai for heels. Like, this is where upper card to middle card, high potential guy heels sort of get grouped into. Like, this is the Hontai for heels. I think they don't really mesh with each other. They don't have this singular purpose. They don't have this singular thing to like bring them together, unlike the Elite or the Acclaimed or the Bang Bang Gang. They're not like crazy. They don't have the same personalities. This is a random collection of like high potential heels. And they need to change that. They need like an identity. And Dawn needs to bring that out of them. So yeah, after this is the 8-man tag team match, which was a show stealer. This was insane. Like, AEW can do these multi-man matches really well. Like, in other companies, they make it look like just card fillers. But with AEW, they make them must-see attractions. In Japanese promotions, man, these matches like almost mean nothing. They're like routine, run-of-the-mill, almost like play testing combinations in the ring. It's where people would experiment, set up the feuds, but like in a more subtle way. But here, man, come on. We have a showcase of what each guy can do, but they wrestle like they're fighting for their lives. They don't wear t-shirts here while wrestling because that means they're not that serious. Zack Sabre Jr. was something else here due to such a great technician. To the level of, I think we've never seen before. Those transitions against Kyle O'Reilly were so smooth, man. Their styles fit together so much. We also got him versus Orange, and it looks like their styles are about to fit as well. Konosuke in this match had the same role that he was given in the trios match last week, taking damage whilst giving out a lot more. He was booked like a monster, but much less dominant because they had to make Dante Martin look good as well. Dante put on an air show. Mark Briscoe did his thing. They emphasized the rivalries. They minimally progressed some of the storylines. We had interactions between Briscoe and Fletcher, between O'Reilly and Strong, and there was no singular whipping boy, which usually happens in matches like this. I didn't feel like a domination phase where the heels would cut the ring in half, dominate. They went high speed all the way, but I think it lasted a bit too long. The match was hot. About like 2 to 3 minutes before the ending. Like, there was a moment there where the crowd was at its peak, chanting, "This is awesome." But they just went on for really too long. I like how they incorporated the sacrifice spots. An illegal man would take the hit for the legal man, and this played to the end, where Kyle takes a shot from Roddy, which opens Roddy up for an orange punch for the win by Orange. This is the number 1 spot of the match. Number 3 is Orange dodging a hard forearm from Takeshita by sitting on a chair. And number 3 is, I think, Dante Martin's crazy dive at the start. This match is a TV main event, pay-per-view, undercard match. This was that good. I think it was better than the first match. This had a better ending. Post-match, as we get brawls from the important people with matches at Forbidden Door, Orange versus ZSJ, and the guys in the TNT title 4-way. So after this is Mercedes promo, and this just proves the point that people who are not good at promos, or like we're just okay, can be amplified so much by having it pre-recorded and having them able to spot errors, able to re-record, able to have an undo button, basically. Imagine if Serena Deeb had one of these. That feud might not have ended up as garbage compared to the match that it ended up yielding. But this promo is basically just saying, I'm ready for Forbidden Door, let's do this. Mercedes out. So yeah. So after this is Rush's segment where he's coaxed, he's seduced by Don Callis to join the Don Callis family. And yeah, Hontai for heels. They need an identity. They don't really mesh together like all of the members of this faction. Honestly, I prefer LFI. Those guys might have lost all of the time, but the fit was just so much better. The biggest problem with that faction is Preston Vance and Jalistico were booked terribly. They were not allowed to win. Yeah, they were buried by the booking. They had an awesome cinematic video where they were like beaten up and taken to Mexico, but that wasn't capitalized upon really. Hook just beat them both. This contributes to my hate of Hook, but yeah. So after that is the Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed. So, the Young Bucks are getting the Kenny Omega treatment from Justin Roberts, but reluctantly. Okada cuts off Caster's rap, and then he does his new thing where he like does a fake cry, straight face, bitch. Yeah, he's sort of this like cutesy foreigner who just says a catchphrase. He's basically like just fishing for reactions. That's his thing kind of right now. I know people really like this. They're praising the comedic timing, but if you want to be a main eventer, if you want to be the Okada you were in New Japan, you gotta develop more than just this. When he will eventually end up in a 1v1 feud, this has to stop. There has to be a point where he gets serious and at least learn how to do a serious English promo with a passable mastery of it. Okada's doing promos in front of Americans, so this will have legs a bit, but actually for me it's starting to get cringe. So yeah, for the actual match itself, this was a sell-heavy storytelling sort of match that shines a light on Anthony Bowens. The dude is the better in-ring performer in this group. The man can sell really well. I like when he tries to do his like instinctual offensive moves and then his body just fails him. This whole match was basically Bowens surviving and Max Caster trying to save him but keeps getting thrown out. But then Bowens just finds that small opening and then he hits his finish, mic drop for the win. For the top spots of the match, honorable mention is the Irish Whip leading, I think it was Max Caster on Matt Jackson, towards the Acclaim side where Bowens was standing. Irish Whip towards that side. Jackson just goes through the ropes and then drop kicks Bowens' leg. Number 3 is Bowens selling the leg. Number 2 is the fake title shot that leads to a real title shot which hits Nick Jackson, setting up for the finish. And number 1 is the sliced bread powerbomb. I forgot what it was called. I think it was something Motor City. The machine guns are coming, guys. But this move was sick. Again, we have another TV main event, pay-per-view undercard match. So after this is the Samoa Joe and Hook segment. And really, guys, AEW addressed the shit out of the concerns, like out of the criticism that they've been having for the past year, may it be disingenuous or true. They fucking made me like Hook with this segment. This really worked. Joe and Hook are having this really fun dynamic. Pre-event conversations. They're about to attack the Premier Athletes. But then, twist, subverted expectations. They're not there. Smart mark. Expected this to happen. Yeah, this is really fun shit. While I didn't quite relate with what they were talking about, I like how the segment ended and how it played out, and Hook's role. I still think he needs to be on excursion, but this mentor sort of relationship that he has with Joe is really fun. Plus Shibata's there with his phone. And so after this is the Tony Storm and Mariah May Mina Shirakawa segment. And again, like, they're building the Forbidden Door foreign talent really well. Like, this is the first time, actually, that a foreign talent gets built really well in an AEW show. Like the previous ones, we didn't even have them interacting in the actual show. That was one of my biggest criticisms about the build towards Forbidden Door, but they managed to address that here, and yet we get the shit rating. Mina cuts a very intelligible promo in English. She uses a lot of like the sort of like 3-word speech pattern thing where you go, but, especially, something, you have gone soft. Those 4 words. But she does this a lot in this one, and it doesn't sound bad. She's having like real difficulty getting out the words, but she got the point across, especially the abusive relationship with Mariah May. Like, when the hell have we had this kind of storyline in a wrestling promotion? They signed the contracts, Tony Storm does her thing. It definitely takes out the seriousness of what Mina said, like Tony's response, like especially like with this abusive relationship that's happening. But point was made. Clearly, the Outcasts do show up with Anna Jay as a new member. They set up maybe a trios match for next week, and we see Mariah May like sticking to what she knew best, to Mina, as Tony Storm is the one who actually risks her ass to defend her. Bruh, storytelling was really good. What the fuck? What's with the ratings, man? So yeah, next is Claudio versus Pac. It's a hype up segment. Claudio cuts a good pre-recorded promo. Proves my point. He is capable of more, but it's simply just let's fight at the main event. Get ready. It's just a hype up. Okay, so after this is, I think, this show's only miss, match-wise, because we're going to get to the other miss much later on. So yeah, Chris Statlander versus Nyla Rose. Why the hell would anyone care about Nyla Rose? She hasn't been on TV or on the programming for like God knows how long. They didn't even try to build her up before this. And yeah, Nyla Rose was awesome back when AEW started, but it's been years. She hasn't been used on AEW TV. I think in Ring of Honor. I don't watch the show, but yeah. But she just can't move the same way as she does before. Bruh, this is the woman who got a good match out of Jade Cargill. Could it be the power versus power dynamic? They do that. Like, this kind of reminded me of the Wardlow versus Joe feud, or like their matches. And yeah, maybe power versus power does not equate to good matches. I couldn't be forced to care about this. This was so nothing. If I would blame something for AEW's ratings, yeah, like this is like definitely one of them. TV undercard match. Post match is actually like a bit nothing. Willow's promo was just simple. It establishes them inevitably facing off in the tournament. I totally think Willow's gonna win. And I love that they're being put in the same side of the bracket. I think this will make things more unpredictable, because if like they were on other sides of the bracket, I think it would have been too obvious that they would be reaching the final. So yeah, this is a good move. And so yeah, after that is the worst non-wrestling segment of the entire show. We have like just a simple backstage encounter by Private Party and the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. Like a Mark Quinn here was very like vanilla in the promo. Bandit Keith's shtick is done. It's over. Jericho was a negative. Like, just dump the gimmick, man. Like, it's not working. It's not helping anyone. It's getting cringe, and I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Like, I think I made a promise last year that when I think it was a JAS story. Yeah, I think it was a JAS story that if they continue doing it, I would stop talking about it. And yeah, it's getting to that point. I do like Isaiah Cassidy's quips. I like Big Bill's lines. But yeah, like that's not enough to carry this whole program. And just get rid of the FTW title already. It's like a waste of time. After that is the Daniel Garcia squash of Rhett Titus. Yeah, this is another miss. Like we have 3 straight misses here by AEW. Honestly, this should have been like a regular length match with like, I don't know, like facing off against a normal, believably competitive talent. Rhett Titus just got squashed. What made this final segment actually was the intersecting of the various storylines. Cage of Agony comes in to take revenge on Daniel Garcia for what happened on Collision. They're about to kill him, but then MJF shows up, who's been watching Daniel Garcia. I think this is putting them in direct competition against the Elite, since the Cage of Agony work for the Elite. This is a bit inconsistent with MJF's character. Like, why is he here helping Daniel Garcia? Like, DG and MJF haven't really interacted much. Like, we need an explanation about this. Are they going to form a faction? Are they going to form Team AEW? Like, Ospreay's save here made so much more sense. But it does lead to a tease with MJF and Will Ospreay, which is, like, good, but we need to hear MJF's side of this, because he already said that he's not willing to make any more friends. And Yet here he is trying to make friends with Daniel Garcia. So yeah. After this is the Will Ospreay promo where he basically no-sells MJF. And then they set up a match against Brian Cage for next week. It's alright. Like, it makes sense. Because Will himself wants the match. He looks at his title and then he starts realizing what Swerve is trying to tell him. He's burning himself out too fast. Youthful invincibility. He's going to be fatigued to shit when he's going to face Swerve. Like, Swerve hasn't had much matches in this build. So yeah, that's how I see it. And then after that is the main event. Claudio Castagnoli versus Pac. Okay, so this match was not as good as social media was hyping it up to be. Because they don't reach like a climax. But first I'll talk about how bad of this is as a booking decision. Because Claudio is one of your best wrestlers. He garners one of the best reactions when he's in the ring. He made those gauntlets what they were. And I don't appreciate him being out of Forbidden Door and like out this early. And like Claudio and Pac have had a match before, so I guess this evens it up. But you could have had Claudio lose much later on. And maybe not to Pac, maybe to someone in the other side of the bracket. Maybe a Hangman Page, who's a wild card. Or a Jay White, you know? And Claudio has the higher upside. I know that Pac is British, but he's not going to win the tournament. He deserves a spot on the card, but man, Claudio can still be world champion someday. This was a miss right here. And for the match itself, like I said at the start, it's not as good as people were hyping it up to be. When they started throwing each other on the barricades, I really don't like when they do that because it makes it feel like it's very for TV only. And it's a very like phoned in way to start a match. But yeah, when they do get back in the ring, it starts getting good again. The story in the match is Claudio's hip, which he sells consistently. And it does play into the finish, but I don't think they did enough. I don't think there was much of a struggle. The match wasn't even that evenly matched. It's like they were taking turns doing their stuff. Like there was a lot of slowdowns in the moves. I mean, it gets eyes on the move. It makes you see the full thing of what's going on. Like, stuff would have been impressive if it was like 10 years ago. But we've got guys like Ospreay, like Swerve, like Ricochet. Aerodynamic dudes, and I don't think Claudio displayed that as much. As well as Pac, as a high flyer. They don't have a climax. They don't have this like epic all-in sort of fight at the end. The match ends in a transition pin. But I do like how the hip plays into this because dude's been selling it for the entire match. And he's in a position where he needs his hip to kick out. I do appreciate that, but that would have been awesome if it happened during like an epic third. But it just happened. Very abrupt. I'm kind of disappointed. So yeah. Top 3 spots of the match. Number 3 is the standing brutalizer. Number 2 are the 2 moonsaults by Pac. The second one turning into a tornado DDT after being caught by Claudio. And then number 1 is the shooting star press that Pac misses. He lands on his feet and then he gets uppercut. You know what? That's number 2. Previous one's number 1. That tornado DDT was insane. So yeah, my rating for this match is the same with the others. TV main event, pay-per-view, undercard, but this one's much lower. So yeah, this was a good episode of Dynamite. Like one of the better ones that they've had, especially storytelling-wise. The first 3/4 of the show were really good. It nosedived by the time of the women's match, and the main event didn't quite save it. It's not as good as it was hyped up to be, so yeah. But a good Dynamite all the same. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully AEW does not shut down. Come back in the ratings. We'll see what happens. I'll be here next week. Bye-bye.